Hello, and welcome to Self-Care is Sexy. My name is Chris, and I'll be your host. We're a podcast that's here to generate and share self-care ideas with each other. Our last episode was all about the different kinds of self-love, from romantic self-love to that elusive, selfless self-love. I get into what each one was, and I gave you a ton of self-care ideas on how you can love yourself more. I want to give you a quick preview of what to expect from today's show. Today, I want to share with you some ways that you can sneak little bits of self-care into your day, no matter how long your to-do list is or how much you've got going on. I've got quick tips to help you get little bursts of self-care in, and I've got simple mindset shifts that you can work on in the meantime until you can build in some more time for self-care. All that and more after a quick break. Today, I've got practical ways that you can sneak some self-care into even your busiest of days. As we're all kind of settling into the new year, getting into our routines and getting things going, it can be really hard to be consistent with self-care and make sure that we aren't burning out from unrealistic resolutions we may have set at the beginning of the year. So I wanted to provide some content that's easy and it doesn't make you feel like you're falling behind in anything, because I'm just here to help remind you that in all of the stuff you've got going on, you are the priority. And just to remind you that you deserve to take time for self-care and that there is time to do that. So these are easy, free, simple ideas that don't require a giant overhaul of your daily routine. But real quick, before I rattle off that list, I do want to first talk about some mindset shifts that will help make it super duper easy to sneak in these 10 easy self-care ideas. But as it turns out, you can walk away from this episode with all the ideas in the world for self-care. But you're a lot less likely to follow through and do them if you don't first start working on your mindset around self-care. And just judging by the fact that you found this podcast, you might not think like somebody who makes themselves their number one priority. So number one, the first shift in mindset that I want you to work on is about giving yourself permission. Now, I just had an episode on this. I talk about this constantly, but you have to buy into and agree to give yourself permission to take time for self-care. And giving yourself permission really just looks like, at the point of decision, inserting what you need versus what somebody else wants from you. And that can be really difficult sometimes. The busier you are, the more you've got going on, the more your head is spinning, the more you really need to practice on giving yourself permission to stop it. It doesn't matter if it's hormonal or circumstantial. If you find yourself floundering with 1,000 things to do, 1,000 demands on your time, and feeling like you collapse into your bed at the end of the day with zero time for yourself, that is exactly when you have to stop. You have to disrupt that pattern and start to give yourself permission and say, hey, you've done enough. Why don't you take a few minutes for yourself? The more you practice that, and the more you buy into that mindset, the easier your life is going to be and the less problems you're going to have that require self-care as a solution. Number two, I want you to watch for the have to alarm. Now, this is a huge red flag when you're rushing from one thing to the next and you've got these thoughts of, I'm so busy. Look for signs of, I have to do this, I have to do that. Recognize when you find yourself really complaining to a lot of different people in your life about all this shit you have to do, or the I should be doing. If you're listening to this podcast right now, and in the back of your mind, you're sitting there thinking, I should be doing this, I should be doing laundry, I should be working on this project for work, I should have done more, I should have done more food prep, I should have worked out longer today, or whatever it might be, I want to invite you to knock that shit off. That is simply your brain's way of setting off an alarm to tell you that you're lacking in self-care. And if you let that alarm go off long enough, it's going to turn into the I hate myself alarm. And if you know, you know. Number 3, ditch the best version of yourself. Okay, if you're new to the show, this is probably going to seem a little weird, but if you haven't noticed, I tend to say the favorite version of yourself when I talk about improving or working on your goals. Because most of us know what it is we need to work on. We know where our strengths and our weaknesses are, and we don't have to be afraid to face it. But when you hear the self-help industry say things like the best version of you or getting to your highest self, I want you to switch your brain to saying the favorite version. Because in doing that, you're starting to trick your brain into believing this is about building a connection and a relationship to yourself. It's not about creating this whole different person. And a lot of times when you are goal setting, if you feel like the best, quote, best version of yourself is so far away from where you're at now, it makes it more difficult to continue to do the things that help you get there. So to encourage you and to motivate you to get to that version of yourself, if you talk about it like it's your favorite version of you, there's more of a connection, there's more of a relationship there. And that's more accurately what you're looking for anyway. The favorite version of you is at your perfect weight. The favorite version of you is living their life in a way that is congruent with your soul. The favorite version of you is dressing and acting and speaking the way you want to be. It's not the best version of you because you don't know what that is. There is no such thing. There's no ceiling here, folks. Turns out self-development does not have a finish line. We get to do this for the rest of our lives. And the sooner you get onto that mindset shift, the easier this shit is going to be for you. Whether that shit is figuring out self-care or your finances or your weight or your career or even a love life. Number 4, I want us to start shifting our mindset about the weekends. Let's start redefining what they are. For the longest time, everyone I know around me treats the weekends like it's their only 2 days off that they get to do, cramming in as much chores and as much fun as they can before they gotta hit the grind on Monday morning. And I don't know if you recognize this, but the second you start switching your mindset around that whole system, the more you're going to feel like you're in charge of your own time. If you can start to see the weekend as equal to the other days in the week, you're a lot less likely to succumb to all of the controlling mechanisms in our culture that keep you oppressed and away from that connection to yourself. Every time you think of Monday like a really difficult grind, you're much more likely to end up in Starbucks drive-thru. If you subscribe to the idea that Friday, payday, is the fun day, you're more likely to blow money on bullshit you don't need. But if you look at Friday and Monday and Thursday and Wednesday and Sunday, all equally the same, you're a lot less likely to be manipulated by the system, and you become the owner of your own time. Number 5, last but not least, on these quick mindset shifts that I want us to work on, is to ditch the boss bitch. So in the self-help industry, in this goal-setting world, in this get to the best version of you mentality that we're saturated in, there's this idea that you're trying to be a boss bitch and that self-care is all geared toward getting you there. And the huge problem with that is that in order for any mechanism, any system to be in place, there has to be different levels of responsibility. And if you're the boss bitch who's in charge of everything, all of the decisions, all of the time management, you really set yourself up to fail and not be able to take care of yourself. This goes back to delegating. So instead of this idea of working towards being a badass boss bitch, how about we just all collectively decide we're just going to try to be our favorite self? We're just working towards that neutrality. Because these extremes that the self-help industry throws out there, that the fitness industry throws out there, that the finance industry throws out there, these extremes, we're starting to wake up to the fact they're not sustainable. So I say let's go against the grain and start aiming for that middle level, because the real success is in the small wins. And that's where that exists. Not the boss bitch wins way at the top of the mountain. We'll get there by implementing the small wins and getting really consistent and good on those. I'm going to run through that list real quick. Some shifts in mindset. Number 1, giving yourself permission. Number 2, watch out for that have to or I should alarm. Number 3, create your favorite self. Number 4, start looking at your weekends differently. And number 5, ditch the boss bitch. Now, with those shifts in mindset in place, I want to talk about how to sneak that self-care in throughout the day. I've got 10 different ways that you can sneak little bits of self-care into even the busiest of days. Number 1, I want you to create a new morning rule. Before your feet hit the floor, put your hand over your heart and say, I love waking up me. This is an incredibly powerful self-care tip that you can take anywhere you go, that you can do no matter what, and it stems from the transitional period from the dream state to the conscious awake state. If in that fuzzy, ethereal state you can start to interject some self-love, you're more likely to participate in self-care throughout the day, unconsciously. Number 2, you're going to add 2 extra minutes in the shower. Now, this self-care tip is actually old as fuck, and I want to talk to you about this. When I was younger, I went through a lot of struggles. I had a really challenging childhood. And I remember I asked someone that I looked up to, who I thought at the time, I thought she was a Buddhist monk. She was like so at peace. She was so cool and like anyone else I'd ever met. And I went to her and I said, man, what is happiness? What is the key to this serene personality you've got going on here? I want some of that. How'd you get that? And she looked at me right in my face, dead ass, and said, 2 extra minutes in the shower. And it wasn't until I got older and I started taking this self-care shit seriously that I really understood what she meant. And what she meant was, in the things that you're already doing, the daily routines that you've already got in place, just add a tiny bit more to that. Because your day might be different than my day. You might not take a shower every day. Shit, you might not even have running water. I don't know. But the idea behind this concept of taking 2 extra minutes in the shower is add just a tiny level up, a little bit more of what's already working. And that is the best way to sneak self-care in, no matter what you've got going on. Number 3, you're going to infuse some sense into your life. What I mean by that is that an incredible way to add some soothing self-care is to put on some essential oils, or to change the perfume or the scent in your room. Any kind of infuser, candle melt, room spray, whatever you're into, engage your sense of smell throughout the day. When you find yourself in the red, overwhelmed, too much going on, just by indulging one of your senses can really interject some incredible self-care into an otherwise hectic-ass day. Number 4, we're going to re-implement the sticky notes. All right, I know you know this one. This is a self-care tip that has long survived any other self-help fad that's come and gone. I just want to bring this back from the dead because it seriously is one of the easiest, quickest ways that you can get self-care today, tomorrow, and the next day. If you're embarrassed about other people seeing them, that's fine. You can sneak them into the inside of your bathroom cabinet doors, or you can sneak them into books, or you can put them on your desk somewhere under something if you'd like. You can put them on the steering wheel of your car. Now, this does not have to be perfectionistic thinking. When I give you this self-care tip, I want us to remember that A, B, and C level work. This does not require you going to the office supply store and getting a pack of sticky notes and then finding these profound quotes to put all over the place. If you're up for that, great. That's a wonderful way to get self-care in. But if you just want to get in, get out, and get done with it, don't force yourself or have this false expectation that you're going to reconfigure your entire life to put sticky notes up. But they are a very profound way to get little bits of self-care and remember to be compassionate to yourself throughout the day. Number 5, say, I love you to everything you drink. Remember back in the day, there was that documentary called What the Bleep Do We Know? Well, it was filmed here in Portland, so it's on my mind a lot. I loved that. And if you ever get a chance, check it out. It's a great Netflix and chill self-date idea for you. But this documentary did this whole study about how we speak to water and how it changes its molecular structure. They took a bunch of water and they put the word love on the outside, and they spoke words of love and positivity to the water every day. And then they did another beaker with like hate. And they compared the two different waters later, and they found a huge difference. And our bodies are pretty much all water. So every chance you get, every single time you're drinking water or liquids of any kind, whisper to the water, "I love you," just before taking a drink. Now, if you're embarrassed that somebody's going to see you doing this, I hate to break it to you, kiddo. Nobody's fucking paying that much attention to you. So do it. Try this. You'll be amazed how great you feel at the end of a week of doing this. Number 6, take your breaks. Look, even if you don't work, schedule times every few hours to take a little sit down, a little break to get off your feet. And especially if you're at home with kiddos, or if you work odd hours and don't have a consistent schedule. Now, I know the corporate world has legal requirements about breaks, but they are far too few and don't take into account that human beings are human beings, not human doings, and we need breaks. We need to unplug, especially in this hyper-stimulated, overexposed culture that we're living in. Our little brain holes need breaks from all of the shit that's going on. Now, when I'm telling you as a self-care tip to take a break, I do not mean sit and scroll on your phone or play Monopoly Go or text with your bestie. I mean legit unplug, don't do anything for anyone, sit there by yourself in the annoying quiet and take a fucking break. Number 7, no more bullying to get yourself to be productive. Now, if you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh shit, I've got a lot to get done today, and you find yourself becoming that evil-ass drill sergeant to yourself, just knock that shit off. It is not helping the situation. If you want to get to the favorite version of yourself, this is something that you're going to have to master. And that is getting yourself to do the things that you know are good for you, even when you don't feel like it. And you're not going to get there if you're being a giant asshole to yourself. That favorite version of you will not have it. Because that favorite version of you is going to be like, nobody talks to me that way. Not even my own internal dialogue. If you're struggling to be productive, or if you're struggling to meet all the expectations that you have for yourself, figure out what your priorities are by doing what your girl does. Make fucking lists. Look, I am not reinventing the wheel here, people. I have not discovered some great hack that nobody else has come up with. All of the most intelligent people that I have worked for in the corporate world, before they leave their desk at night, they make a list of the 5 things they absolutely have to get done tomorrow. And when they come in the morning, they have a morning routine of what they do to situate their work, these massive amounts of work that are demanding and have to get done. And they do it by prioritizing and making a list and crossing things off the list. You can do that without being a total dick to yourself. Number 8, don't hold it. Now, this seems super silly for me to have to say, but you would really be surprised to find out how many adults actually avoid interrupting their work or don't want to miss out on something and hold their potty. It literally is an act of self-care to pee when you have to, or to drink water when you first get thirsty, or to eat when you get those whispers of hunger. There is such a push in our culture to deny our physical cues, to put them off and to keep grinding, that has become the norm. And I'm asking you to break out of that and be able to sneak a little self-care into your day by simply responding to those cues when they come up. Now, some of you might be freaking out right now and being like, Chris, I got the ADHD. I cannot give in to those impulses or I will never get shit done. And here's what I have to say to that. Do you even know when those impulses come up? Because you have probably ground them into dust, and there's this non-existent thing happening that you don't even know when you've got to go pee until it's an emergency. Or you don't even know when you're hungry until your stomach is eating itself. These kinds of oppressions of our physical signals are detrimental to us achieving that favorite version of ourselves. So please, for the love of God, don't hold it anymore. Number 9, change your breathing. Look at here, folks. Let's do this right now. Take a deep breath in with me. Hold it and let it out. Now, we take our breath with us everywhere we go. It is this incredible powerhouse tool. Now, you can use your breath to change your physical state and to change your emotional mood. If you don't believe me, give this a try right now. If you do longer and more vigorous inhales, that's going to speed up your heart rate and make you more alert. And if you were to do longer, more vigorous exhales, that's going to calm you down and make you feel more relaxed. There's a million different breathing exercises that you can take with you everywhere you go. We talk about it on the show a lot. I've gone through box breathing. There's the infinity breath. There's the breath of fire. If any of these are remotely interesting to you, you can probably find a YouTube on them. But the main idea is that if you're finding it really hard to get time to take care of yourself, change your breathing anywhere, anytime. Try these practices and see it physically change your physical state and your mood instantly. All right, number 10, and last but not least, in my 10 ways to sneak self-care into even the busiest of day, we're going to start working on the self-hype. Now, I know I've talked about this before, but oh, for the love of Jesus, please go find this. You know that video of Snoop Dogg accepting an award, and he goes up there and he's like, I'd like to thank myself for showing up every day. I'd like to thank myself for writing these lyrics, etc., etc. And he just looks amazing. It's this wonderful. I love this video. I probably reference it, I don't know, every single time I get on the mic because it's so fucking cool and it's so incredible. And I want us all to get in the habit of thinking that way and of doing that. And you can start to shift your mindset and start to become the kind of person who thinks to thank themselves for the shit that they're doing to make their life work. So a quick, easy example of that is you could simply say to yourself, like, self, I know you're doing the best you can. I believe in you. I love you. Anytime you can offer to yourself a little bit of hype, a little bit of praise, a little bit of recognition, you're getting one step closer to that favorite version of yourself. You're getting more connected to the zhuzh of life. If you start to hype yourself up, think of how unstoppable you'd be if you accepted all the compliments, if you celebrated yourself, and if you infused a little bit of self-care into every day. All right, I'm going to run through that list real quick. My 10 ways to sneak in self-care throughout your busy day. Number 1, the new morning rule. Number 2, 2 extra minutes in the shower. Number 3, engage your senses. Number 4, sticky notes. Number 5, tell your water I love you. Number 6, take your breaks. Number 7, no more bullying to be productive. Number 8, listen to your physical cues. Number 9, work on your breath. And number 10, time for some self-hype. Okay, that's it for this week. Thank you for joining me. If you have a story you'd like to share and you want to be on the show, please email me. It's Chris, Kris, at selfcareissexy.com. Okay, we've got some really great content coming your way, so stay tuned. And remember that self-care is sexy. We're giving you permission to put yourself first.